And welcome back. My next guest is Dennis Letson, who's the Director of Engineering and Facilities Management for the town of Clarkstown. Welcome, Dennis.
Good morning, thank you.
So, Dennis, I know it seems like just a short time ago that you were actually on the program talking about some of the activities of the engineering department. And lo and behold, we now have merged several departments, and I'm very excited about it because it's really providing an opportunity for enhanced services and some savings for the taxpayer. And the new department that you head up is the Department of Engineering and Facilities Management. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that and some of the tasks that you're working on, particularly this time of year, and some of the major projects. Before we get to that, though, why don't you just tell our viewers a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how long you've worked for the town.
Well, I've been with the town now for almost 24 years. I am a graduate engineer and a professional engineer licensed in New York. I grew up out in Huntington on Long Island and kind of have almost come full circle. Started out working in land development, went to work for the town for a little while in Parks and Recreation, finished up school, and then got more into the engineering end and ended up with the town of Clarkstown now for, as I said, the last 24 years. And now we're doing a little bit of everything that I've done collectively in my past.
So, and what I think is great, you bring private sector experience as well. I mean, certainly you started out, as you said, with the town of Huntington, then you became an engineer, then you worked in the private sector.
Yes.
Before you came to Clarkstown. You worked with, what was it, one of the local engineering companies?
Yeah, I worked for several years in Manhattan, and then I worked for McLaren Engineering. They were over in West Nyack at the time, Valley Cottage in West Nyack, for about 6 years there too.
And where I first got to meet you was probably, it's got to be 16 or 17 years ago when I was appointed to the town planning board by Supervisor Holbrook back, I think, in 2003.
Yes.
And so I got to meet you through the planning board process.
As a joke, one day in my cell phone, I do have to change you to town supervisor from member of planning board.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. It's kind of funny though. Just as an aside, I mean, the planning board really was great experience for me. That helped really kind of give me an understanding of town government and an understanding of the town council. And being a town council person kind of gave me a better understanding of what it is to be town supervisor. Neither one fully prepares you for the next step, but along the way you get to meet and work with people such as yourself, and you realize how lucky we are in the town of Clarkstown to have such dedicated and qualified staff. Talk to me about the new Office of Engineering and Facilities Management.
The new department, and our thanks to the town board for all of their support in creating it and getting it up and running. But now it merges a lot of the design and overall maintenance and functions townwide under one department. Gives us a lot of flexibility in being able to juggle any number of different maintenance projects and address emergencies in a far more efficient manner than we were in the past, with having to go through 3 or 4 different departments in order to assemble specialized talent or necessary talent. So now we've merged everything together, and we can bring all of the town's talent to bear on any particular situation or concern, as well as tapping all of our professional resources on the engineering side of the town department to react to any type of situation, to evaluate a lot of the existing practices and policies and maybe modify them so that we can become more efficient moving forward, to try and implement improvements and measures that will reduce our ongoing future maintenance costs. We recently redid some lighting in the Pascack Community Center and replaced the existing fixtures with new LEDs that have a 10 or 15 year lifespan before we'll have to touch them again. That'll save the town about $800 a year in ongoing maintenance costs for some of the things that we don't have to do anymore with these some of the new systems that are available. We've got all of our cul-de-sac crew, our parks maintenance staff working together. I think this was probably, even including the hellacious rainfall this spring, all of our fields were playable on opening day for all of the little leagues and the groups that use the fields. Right now, we've also merged a bunch of the guys together, and they're all out working on preparations for pool openings in June. So that's going well at this point.
So let's just talk about, so the folks know what really took place. So, you know, it's like anything. I mean, in a large organization, there's over time, people can become siloed, departments can become siloed. So essentially what we had was we had the cul-de-sac crew, which kind of developed organically over the last 10 years or so. There was number of positions that ultimately were eliminated from the highway department and ended up coming over here, and essentially was put together to take care of cul-de-sacs, because the highway department wasn't taking care of the cul-de-sacs the way in which the former supervisor wanted that to take place. So they created the cul-de-sac crew and placed them under the former clerk of the works of the town. And in addition to that, with our hamlet centers, New City and Nanuet, in particular, with they needed some attention, so the cul-de-sac crew kind of grew and took that over, and there were about 8, I guess, or so guys in the cul-de-sac crew. Then you had the town buildings and the police department, town hall in particular, had our own maintenance crew, custodial staff, and cleaners and mechanics. And then you had the Parks and Recreation Department, which had their own field people who were doing a lot of similar work to like the cul-de-sac type people, but basically in the parks and with ball fields. So not the same, but not too different.
Right.
And then you had another complement of custodial staff and folks in the different community centers addressing the Parks and Recreation buildings. And then you also had folks that were, mechanics or higher ups that were responsible for kind of the pools.
Right.
So what we've basically done is taken each of these siloed groups, brought them together. We've already seen some savings from some downsizing that's happened naturally with some retirements. So there's a couple of positions that we haven't had to fill because we've got the flexibility. But more importantly now, it allows a wider net of people to be able to be dragged into address an issue that is problematic. So if we, like for example, we had an issue with the mini golf course. And so we were able to pull a lot of workers that in the past we wouldn't be able to do and kind of attack that problem. And they were able to spend essentially 2 days there and get the place, a lot of it cleaned up in a way in which we would not have been able to do similarly, in the past. We may have had to bring somebody else in, or, the golf course wouldn't have opened on time. Right. So there's some real value there. We'll probably show a picture of this, but why don't you talk a little bit about some of the types of things that we're doing now? Like there was just recently this new department saved us from having to spend over $30,000 that ultimately we would have bonded to put in a 60-inch pipe. Could you speak to a little bit about that project and what happened with that?
Yes. Over in Nanuet, we had a length of pipe between 2 catch basins that had been in the ground since the subdivision was constructed about 45 years ago. And the pipe had collapsed. It was in an easement under a private driveway, actually, on the lot. And we had a very large hole that developed in the driveway. So we were able to, with our own forces and bringing several different groups together, excuse me, replace that pipe. And as you say, it was a large pipe. It's a 5-foot diameter pipe. And we replaced about 80 feet between the 2 catch basins in a matter of about 2.5 days. Avoided having to go outside to a contract. We had actually, because of the timing, sent out proposal requests to do the project, and the responses that we got for that ranged anywhere between $38,000 and I believe $56,000. Our own crews did it with our own equipment and purchased the material for about $8,800. So we've saved $30,000.
So easily save 30,000, and that's just
Yes.
that's just one example. Since
right.
and there's others as well.
We've done a number of those projects, and we're actually looking at doing more of them. Our engineering design project list has got roughly 45 projects on it. One of our intents is that those projects will never show and have to be placed on the capital projects list, so that we will never have to bond to do that work.
That's great. No, it's I'm very proud of the fact that since I've been supervisor, we've actually reduced our overall bonded debt by about $6 million. Operationally, what that means in terms of the overall town budget, we're paying $940,000 less in debt service. We were paying over $15 million on our bonded debt on a $144 million budget when I became town supervisor. We're now down just over $14 million. And so we're saving about $950,000 in our debt, in our debt service every year, and that's payments that are added into our budget. So what does that equate to? About $1 million is 1% of the town's budget. It's 1% on your tax bill. So by reducing our bonded debt and doing what we can to maintain our infrastructure, we're going to be able to save money for the taxpayers. So that's $1 million savings that the taxpayers are experiencing. It's almost 1%, for the taxpayer. So
well, actually, we should give you a lot of credit for supporting what we do, and you and the town board, and actually Chief of Staff Al Maroney in supporting and coordinating a lot of different things, and making some of the equipment available that we need to purchase, because like I said, if we can keep these things from having to go out to private contracts, and it just saves us a whole bunch of money, and we won't have to bond for it as time goes on, so we can continue that downward trend in the overall bonding.
Great. So let's just talk very briefly. There's several major projects that are in the design stage, or that are moving forward now, actually under construction, or about to go out to bid, or have just recently been bidded or bid and have been awarded or about to be awarded. So Cranford Drive. That's a big project. Maybe you could just give a...
Cranford Drive is a major project, and people will remember, because of some of the scheduling and restrictions, we had to remove trees out there earlier than we had the balance of the project out. So people have been very patient, and we thank them for that. Cranford Drive currently is in a little bit of hiatus. We're waiting for some specialty pumping equipment to arrive on the job. And we're also preparing some material disposal areas, because the overall Cranford Drive, we have to remove about 12,000 cubic yards of soil materials and find a home for it elsewhere. So we're working at 2 or 3 different locations to be able to move that material out. We anticipate that the equipment will be in with the next, I'd say, week to 2 weeks. It'll take about a week for the contractor to set up some bypass piping and elements to be moving the job forward. And at that point, then excavation starts in earnest, and they'll be out there 3 months straight with all kinds of equipment going at the same time, and excavating, shaping the final channel configuration, stockpiling, and then transporting material off the site, doing the planting and the final stabilizations, and get everything back to normal.
Great, great. So that's over a $5 million project. It's over $3 million paid for from the Governor's Office of Storm Recovery, $1 million from the county from years ago.
Yes.
Then that entire neighborhood will never have to experience the flooding that it experienced. We've had people with water, 6 feet of water in their house. So thankfully that that'll be addressed. A couple of the other projects that you're working on that are out to bid, Klein Avenue Levee, in West Nyack revitalization. So why don't you just give a very quick update as to where they stand?
Yeah, those are two big projects in West Nyack. The Klein Avenue levee improvement is designed to bring the levee up to meeting the current FEMA standards, so that the Klein Avenue, Louise Drive area will be then in a changed flood zone designation. They'll be protected by levee, which should dramatically reduce all of the flood insurance premiums that people are paying down there. Right now, we're processing and securing the permits that we need from the Army Corps of Engineers, and 2 permits from the New York State DEC on that project. And the town board on Tuesday night also accepted 2 easements that we need in order to progress the project. We're also finalizing the seeker review, the environmental review for the project, and we're still looking optimistically at getting that job bid out in the next 2 months and being in a position to start construction later this year.
That's great. That's great. And then, you know, there's a lot of other things you're working on. The Budke House, I mean, you'll be overseeing, that, and thankfully we have $500,000, and that historic property will be finally restored this year, which will be great. But the sewer pump stations, I mean, it's not the sexiest project, but how many sewer pump stations do we, I mean, talk to our viewers a little bit about the sewer collection system, because that's essentially what we have here. We have the countywide sewer district number 1,
Right.
which is Clarkstown, Ramapo, and a portion of Orangetown. And we have the treatment. There's 2 treatment plants there. There's one up in Hilburn for the western part of Ramapo, and everything else pretty much comes down into the major treatment plant down in Orangeburg. That's a countywide district, but the town itself has some assets and resources that feed into that system. Just tell us a little bit about that.
We have quite a few, actually. Our sewage collection system in town encompasses roughly 350 miles of sanitary sewer pipe. The houses are connected to that, or any buildings are connected to that. Approximately 9,000 sanitary sewer manholes that serve as junctions and runs between the pipe. And then around town we have 19 pump stations where they pump sewage from the lower elevations and get it back up into the gravity flow piping system. Then our system feeds into the main trunk system that the county sewer district operates within the town. So we are constantly out maintaining our piping system and flushing it in different areas and checking it for blockages, repairing pipes, replacing pipes. And right now we are almost done with the total replacement of all 19 of our pump stations. There are 3 that are under construction this year. And then the last 4 will be done in 2021.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, and these are important because, you know, it's one of the, again, less glamorous things that anybody would ever, trumpet about fixing. But for the residents that live in an area where the sewage has to be pumped back up, if there's a problem with these pump stations, they get sewage backups, right?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Or you get a sewer overflow, or if it overflows a manhole or a pump station, and the state environmental department takes sewage overflows very seriously. So it's not something that you ever want to have.
Right. And the total overhaul of these 19 pump stations, it's not inexpensive. I think the first round was about $9 million, and then we've done several over a course of a couple of years, and they're a couple of million each, right? So
yeah, they generally, depending upon how extensive the renovation is, it can run anywhere between $750,000 to $2 million per station.
Right, and it's been a large expense to the town. Thankfully, about half of it was covered. The first 9 stations or 10 stations were covered by the sewer district.
Correct.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to get them to pick up the rest, but the rest of the pump stations are.
We are also pursuing additional grants with environmental facilities and clean water grants. So for the last round, this round currently, and the next round of sewer pump stations, we have managed to secure about $1.5 million in grant funding to offset the town's cost.
Yeah, no, I'm very pleased with that. I mean, certainly the stations I've been responsible for as supervisor, we pulled in, as you said, well over $1.5 million in clean water funding from the state, and we're going to be applying it again for the
Yes,
for the last
yeah.
round as well. So, well, Dennis, that's about all the time we have for today. I want to thank you for your ongoing service. Certainly it's a new and exciting time in Clarkstown. It's a new department, and it's improving services, and it's helping us watch our bottom line and save some dollars. So. You've got a little more white hair from the, from the extra headaches that are taking place. But I wish you well as you move forward. I know Al Maroney, my chief of staff, has worked hand in glove and very closely with you, in bringing this about. And it's certainly been something that it's going to save us over time. It's going to save us in terms of some staffing positions. But more importantly, it's going to give us, and it already is giving us. More flexibility and enhanced services, and residents should really be aware of it. It's more of a behind-the-scenes type thing, but anytime you can do a better job and save money, it's a good thing, and you're key to that.
Thank you very much. And I want to just say that the support of the town board has been fantastic. We have several of our staff members, Mike Melton and Ron Gaglione, have just really stepped up so dramatically and all of the staff have been working together well, and we're going to continue to try and bring things up and make things better for the residents.
Great. Well, Dennis, again, thank you, and keep up the good work in the town of Clarkstown.
Thanks.
So stay tuned for our next guest, Julian Palmer from Touch. We'll be right back.